if you come through the create attrition table, he's going to say, okay, we default the dice roll to a I can't start a numerator with a number. You have to start it with a letter. So instead of being able to say 1d6, I did a D16, okay, and a D18 and a D110. Okay, so when they're displayed on the screen, they're displayed correctly. So so then we come in and say, okay, the data grid itself is not zero based. Okay, column 1 is column 1, row 1 is row 1. So we have to keep that always in mind. So I said, okay, for each column 1 to 7 going across, we're going to say, okay, here's column 1, and this is going to be, we're going to set the odds title to be 1 to 4. And then we're going to come down here and create our combat roll. And we're going to roll the dice 0 to 5. We have 6 options because we've set the dice to 6. So then we come in and say, okay, your roll value is y plus 1. So the dice rolling will be roll 1 to 6, which is what the dice would be. So then we come in and just set your attacker damage and defender damage to zeros. And then the next time through the loop, he's 2. That becomes 1 to 3. We set everything to 0. Then we say, okay, it's 1 to 2, 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1. And guess what? The whole thing's built. Now, it's all in memory. It hasn't been saved to the database yet, but that's okay. So now, the next thing that happens is, let's see, we come down here, we've created our database. Now we want to show the screen. So this is the detail screen here that's popping up. The detail screen popping up, first thing I do is get rid of that list icon grid and exchange it out for a database grid. And then I call build the database grid. So there's a lot of fun code here, you can rest assured. So the attrition table grid creation takes the collection of odds, okay? Now, you have the attrition table, right? And it has a collection of odds. Each odds is a single column on the grid, and each odds contains the collection of dice rolls, okay? So with that in mind, we reset our table to be 7 columns, 0 rows and 7 columns. So if you don't have anything, which you'll never have nothing, it'll be cleared. But that's just out of habit. And then I go and select the first of the odds, okay? And I get the number, the list size of the combat rolls, okay? That's the dice rolls. So initially, this is going to be bring back the number 5. So because it's 0 to, oh no, I take that back. When you do list size, he'll come back and say it's 6. Normally we do a -1 on the iteration, so we go 0 to 5. But this list size returns a value of 6. So then I can create my grid as a 6 rows, 7 columns. And then we come down here, and this just begins to play the big array game. So we have grid. We're going to actually load the grid by column and say, okay, for each column, go through each of the combat rolls and set our value. Now we're loading the value as a string, with it being the attacker damage, a slash, and then the attacker or the defender damage. Okay, so attacker, then defender. And then we set our titles, the column titles as we're going, to be the odds title. That's the parent object, not the child that we're playing with. And then it iterates through all of that and builds all of that. And then we come down and we make sure our column widths all fit. And then we tell it to redraw the table and we're done. Now, the next fun piece of code, and let's go ahead and show this now. I know I'm getting a bit long-winded. I may have to actually break this into 2 videos. Let's see. So here's our very first screen, and we can go to game and attrition tables. And this is our list screen, and it shows up and says, gosh, you have absolutely none. So let's go ahead and create our table. Now, between the click of that button and what you're seeing here, this is the combat attrition table. It has gone and created the entire object in memory, and you're looking at attacker damage / defender damage. So there's 2 pieces of real fun code here after what we've just built. There's 2 fun pieces remaining. Let me say it that way. So first is when you edit a cell, because this is a fully editable grid, right? So I want to come over here and say the attacker on 1 to 4 odds is going to get 100% damage. And yes, I know that's what it is separated. Oh, crap. I didn't change that. Farts. Okay, I still have a check that's bad. Okay, so let's come in and say 100, because the validation is looking at a pipe, I think. Yeah, see, he's happy with that. Let me go fix that real quick. So that's down here. And while I'm down here, I'll show you where that code is too. So in here, this is the modify change event of the my grid. And that was the guy I forgot to change. I was originally going to use pipe, but I didn't like how it looked. So what he does here is when you change a cell, this event is called the minute you tab off or hit enter. Okay. So this function, this event is fired, and it comes in and it gives me the row and column that's affected. So I get a row index and a column index, because remember, the rows are one collection and the columns are another collection inside the rows. So I then grab the current value of the cell on the grid and then make sure that we have the slash key in there. And then I use the little trick of doing the string field first one and then the second one. And then we come down and say, okay, let's go play in the array, the monster array that is the database object. So combat attrition, work combat attrition here, this guy has the collection of odds. This is the column index. And then we select him. Then I take him and select inside of him the row index, which is the dice. This is the value that you rolled. And then we pick up the 2 halves of the slash bar, okay, the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and put their values into the attacker and defender damage. And then I reset the entire text field back to what it should be, making sure that everybody has selected everything. So if this is false, you took that slash off, then I'm going to force the slash back into this. And I bet I screwed it up down here. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and select the object, because we haven't updated the object yet. And I'm going to put the values back to what they were. And see that I did it twice. Look at that. I missed 2 of them. That's probably because it was off the screen, because this is horrendously wide. Okay, so there we go. So if you notice, we then go, okay, set text. Here's the column, row and column. And then I've got the string of the attacker damage plus the little slashy. And then I've got the string of the defender damage. Okay, so that all takes place in the heartbeat that is you're hitting the enter key, and then it re-updates. Then down here, last step always is to re-update the grid. So The other real fun piece of code in this is, oh my God, what happens when they change the dice? So you bring this up, it defaults to a 1d6 and you want a 1d8. So you change the dice to be a 1d8. All right, so I have to look up and say, what is the current dice? So the dice was a 6, right? You got the 1d6. And what is it now? What have you selected on the actual control on the screen? So now I know you've gone from a 1d6 to a 1d8 or a 1d10, or vice versa, what have you. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and update the dice roll. That way, the next time through this loop that you change it back to a 6, I know that you've changed it to an 8 and now it's going back to a 6. Okay, and then I come down to the next piece and say, if dice is what dice was, then you didn't change anything, just ignore it. Okay, so if you change the dice to be less than what the dice was, I go ahead and iterate the lists, the big collection guys, and delete off the elements, the records that you just got rid of. So if you move from 10 to 6, I'm going to delete row would be 10, 9, 8, and 7. The database is actually going to be database record 9876. Okay, so because of the offset of being 0-based or 1-based. Then down here, if you're appending rows, you've gone from 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 or 6 to 10, then it comes in and says, okay, for each column, each of the odds, we're going to add rows. So here's the conversion to jump between 0-based and plus-based or 1-based. So we come in and say, okay, we're going to go from 6. So I have to add 7, 8, 9, and 10. And since I'm adding records, I don't bother. I'm not setting an index on any of that. That's just magically already done for me. And then we set their values to 0. And we set the roll value to be the value of y. Okay. So that means it comes up as a 7, 8, 7 and 8, or 7, 8, 9, and 10. So, and then when each of these are done, because you've done one of these 3 options, there's only 3 possibilities, we go ahead and reprint the table. So now, so that was, those are all the fun pieces of code that existed in this that made it a challenge. And for me, it made the whole thing a whole lot of fun to write and figure out. That's the whole game in programming, to be honest with you. So we come in and say, okay, we got our grid. And let's see, I want to change this to say, let's go to 8. So now I have 1 to 8. And then I go, okay, let's change it back. And now I'm back to 1 to 6. And when you're all done, you can hit save and it all saves to the database and everybody's happy. So that was the fruits of my day today, was building that fun piece of code. And I figured I would show it off. Eventually, it's going to show up all the way through the system. But it's going to need still a whole bunch of work to pull that all off. We have all these other screens to get laid out and loaded. This being obviously the biggest challenge. The others shouldn't take more than a couple, 3 hours. The impact to the actual game player, however, that one might be a little bit more. But I think it would be fun for the hosting player to be able to choose what set of dice that he wants everybody to roll for the game and get that all working out. So that pretty much concludes this extremely long video, which I'm guaranteeing will be broken into 2. So I want to thank you all very much for watching.